Hello, and welcome to our episode at the NADA show, Creative Ways to Acquire Used Inventory. My name is Patrick McMullen with Max Digital. I'm a Senior Vice President of Strategic Accounts, and I have my good friend and colleague with me today, Tim Scoutless. Tim, why don't you tell the good folks a little about yourself?
Hey, welcome to NADA 2021 Virtual Edition. Thank you very much, Patrick. It's good to be here with you. My name is Tim Scoutless. I am the Director of Strategic Accounts with Max Digital, coming to you live from Wilmington, North Carolina. This is pretty awesome. What do you think, Patrick?
It is pretty cool. It's a little different. I've spoken at NADA in the past, and had it's fun to interact with the crowd and talk to people afterwards. And I'm sure missing being there in person this year with all the fine dealer folks that we work with and for. So, but hey, we gotta overcome adversity. So here we are online. I'm coming to you live from Tampa, Florida. So, cool. Tim, so what are we going to talk about today?
Hey, so today we are going to talk about creative ways to acquire used car inventory. Right?
Topic.
If you are a dealer today trying to acquire used car inventory, it has probably been a challenge. If you look all over the internet and what you're hearing from dealers coast to coast, right? Getting the right car at the right price has never been tougher. I think we've got a couple of ways that we can share with you guys that are unique, creative, and maybe some more traditional ways, maybe a spin on a couple of traditional ways to make sure you guys are doing things right. Right?
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
So we have this.
You got to go back a slide. We got to put the announcement out there.
The NADA disclaimer, right? The views and opinions presented in this educational program,
especially Tim's
company handout.
So we don't have to read this, but we just have to put this on there for contractual purposes.
Good job. All right, great. So let's move on. Everybody's got that.
Let's go.
So what are we going to cover today, Patrick? Why don't you run through the agenda real fast here?
Yeah, so we're going to dive deep into each one of these topics, but really the whole crux of this is 5 steps to get creative when sourcing your inventory, and we're going to talk about things that not just from us. Tim and I are both from the industry now on the vendor side. We both worked at CarMax, eons ago. Tim was a pre-owned director for the Penske Automotive Group, so we've gotten our hands dirty in the industry, both on the vendor side and the franchise and big box retail side. So these aren't, our opinions. These are things that we see tried and true that actually work at dealerships. And being that Tim and I work with our strategic accounts, we work with some of the largest automotive groups in the country. So we're bringing some of those best practices to you fine folks. So we're gonna cover those 5 steps to get creative. Why buy from customers versus the auction, right? Auctions are a great place to source inventory, Tim. But I think you'd agree that car that you buy from the customer usually does a lot better for you than the car that you went offsite and sourced, right?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Are you utilizing your service lane? There's a ton of former and conquest customers sitting there right in your dealership. What are we doing to mine some of that inventory? And Tim's going to share a great story with you about how what he used to do when he was behind the desk. I think he called it Wacky Wednesday. So we'll get to that. Private sellers, right? So people that are trying to sell their car on their own. We have some great stories behind that and some ways to implement that type of process in your dealership. And being that we work with these large groups, we're going to bring a case study from our good friends up in the Midwest and in Minnesota, and some creative things that they do, and they've been phenomenal over the last few years with process and procedure. And then time permitting, we got some bonus ideas. If we don't get to that based upon time, this will be available and there will be handouts. So, Tim, once you want to start here?
Right. So great. I think there's plenty of stuff to talk about here. So number one, out of all the things that we're going to talk about today, I think it's important to talk about culture. right,
Mhm.
Patrick? So the first thing I think when it comes to, if you want to get involved in being creative about acquiring inventory outside of the auction, and we'll talk about why it's important, I think, to consider inventory directly from the consumers. You must come up with a unique and strong consumer value proposition, right? So what sorts of things do you think are there, Patrick?
It's got
Right?
to be well communicated too.
Absolutely.
I don't think you said proposition too clearly. So well communicated is is the key.
Oh,
Tim and I, we worked together for a long time, so we like to go back and
right.
forth with each other.
Yeah. So,
But these are things, Tim, that dealers they do intuitively, but they don't have it down anywhere. It might be part of their culture, but if a customer walks through the front door and they don't know what your value prop is, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? So we're going to show you. You got to your value prop has to be anywhere that your customers are, whether that's online on your website, whether that's when they walk through the front door and you have big banners that you hang on the wall or put right next to the front door that talk about how you're different. I mean, Tim, we talk about all the time, that the space has changed, right? The average consumer, they don't go down dealer row and kick a bunch of tires. They find that one or two cars that they're interested in, and they drive right to the dealership, right? Or they pick up the phone and they call. So is that part of your salespeople's vernacular? Things like 7-day, 500-mile, purchase offer. I know that's we have a lot of dealers that are still hesitant to do that, Tim. Will you go to the client's home or office and do a mobile appraisal? There's other companies, the competitors out there like Carvana and the Rooms that they'll do it online and come pick it up. We cut them a check on the spot. And Tim, I know this is a big hot button for yours, and I'll let you expand here in a second. But your mobile process online has to match the in-store process. Do you agree?
yeah, totally. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each one of these. We talk about the unique customer offer, and you want to take the one end of the spectrum is somebody like CarMax. So Patrick and I both spent some early time in our careers working for CarMax, and I look at these equities here, and they've come a long way. 7 days to change your mind, right? Drive worry free for 90 days or 4,000 miles. God, can you imagine?
It used to be 3 days when we worked there. You had 3 days to make up your mind.
Yeah,
And now you got a whole week.
totally. And these are things that I think a lot of traditional franchise dealers will look at and go, there's just no way that I can do that. And listen, I get it. I worked in the traditional franchise dealer world for many, many years. I understand where you guys are coming from. But let me tell you something. If a customer comes to the store and if they gripe enough, aren't you probably going to take the car back? Aren't you probably going to do something for them? Wouldn't it be fine to just document how far you would go, right? Even if it's 30 days or 1 day or whatever, a mile, let the customer know that you're willing to go the distance to make it right for them.
Tim,
fair, Patrick?
Yeah, I know we've had this back and forth with some of our dealers, over the years. Of your groups that actually have this return policy, what percentage of the cars that they sell actually come back?
It's less than 5%. I show this up here about the Luther advantage. So my buddies up in Minneapolis, I was there when they put this process in place. I was part of the discussions, and I'm going to tell you, I heard it from the GMs. There's no way we can do this. There's absolutely no way that we can put in a money back guarantee. And all of the general managers, they couldn't be pushing back anymore. Let me tell you, what they've noticed in the 8 years since they put this in place, it's a non-factor, right?
Mm.
Because is it really like a money back guarantee, or is it like your best chance to make the situation right? The customer now knows they can comfortably come back to the store and you're going to make it right. And that's all that it's about. And I think it's important that as dealers, if we want to get into this world where we're going to acquire inventory directly from the consumer, we need to be upfront with the customers how we're going to deal with them and make things right.
Yeah, and of that 5%, Tim, like you said, it's the money back guarantee. I would feel safe in saying probably 75 to 80% of those, they switch them into another car. So it's not like they're losing customers and they're unwinding a bunch of deals. Yeah. They're making it right by the customer. But more importantly, when that customer comes through the front door, and I've seen this at Luther and other groups where this is part of the salesperson's word track before they even talk about what car they're interested in, what they're there to accomplish today. They walk them right over to something very similar to this, and they walk them through this advantage program that they have. I mean, even things like 10% off or 10 cents off gas at participating locations. Different things, that free car washes for life. Those are things that we do as dealers for our customers, but we don't tell them up front. And if I'm on the fence between dealer A and dealer B, and I end up at dealer B and they have all these cool perks for me for being part of the quote unquote family, I'm everything else, equal. I'm probably going to go with the one that, earned my trust up front.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, where do they put those signs? Do they put them, all over the place?
So they have them as table toppers at salespeople's desks. They some dealerships have them as walk-in posters, right by the door or by the reception area, by the restroom and the service area. It's on their website. It's in their advertising. It's become sort of the mantra, right? Hey, before you buy a car from us, make sure you're aware of the Luther Advantage.
Well, you said at the beginning, it's about culture, right? And you got to change that culture. And they, kicking and screaming, a lot of dealers, are opposed to that. But once it becomes ingrained in your culture, it spreads like wildfire, and it becomes your culture. So, kudos to those guys. And if you're thinking about it, there's plenty of examples out there that we can help you with.
All right. So next piece, if you were talking about culture, what is, if you want to be a dealer that separates themselves from everybody else online, look, I saw this picture when it first came out. This Carvana tractor trailer, the lip rollback here is, this picture's probably 5-6 years old. But you think about it, they were ahead of their time. Right? They were willing to go what I call the last mile before anybody was even talking about it. And think about the last, year of our lives. We really have kind of pivoted into a delivery society. I know my kids spending money on DoorDash and all sorts of delivery things to the house now because we don't go out as much. They were doing it before it was even popular to do it. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to, put something in about your culture, put something in that separates you from everybody else, be willing to go that last mile to acquire that inventory. Because you know what? That really, really nice car that you need to sell on your used car lot that's going to make you the most money, I guarantee you it's not making it to the auction. It's probably 100%. Still sitting in someone's driveway, right? Wouldn't you say, Patrick?
Yeah, 100%. Yes, agreed. Great. Is that you on the bottom right-hand corner?
That is. That's me demonstrating.
Building culture at your home.
Yeah, so check me out. I do lots of videos online. I did a video about how you could do an appraisal right at someone's house. When we were talking about willing to get that car, I show right after the front door. Can I have the keys? No problem. We'll take a look at it. We'll give you an offer on the spot. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So, then we talked about the online and in-store experience must match, and not necessarily, we can talk about the number that you give a customer online, right, for a trade. There's lots of different trade tools out there that give customers offers. KBB, instant cash offer, trade pending. You might have something from NADA or there's lots of tools out there. But how many times, is a customer going to fill that form out and then they get there to the store? Because we're going to show you in a minute, all customers are going to want to come to the store. but like, why is it that I got to start all over again? Why? It's like, you gave me a number. And so I think it's, we talk to a lot of customers online, and maybe Patrick, you allude to this, right? That the online experience must match what happens in store. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think there's a big disconnect that, I think all dealers struggle with is, we have all these fancy tools online, but the customer thinks they're at a spot in the process because of all the research they've done and all the time they spent online. They got a number, like you said, for their car. They show up to the dealership and they're expecting to pick up where they left off. And like you said, we're going right back to square one and we're starting from the beginning again. So having that online process that picks up in the store where that customer left off, regardless of where that's at, because every customer is different and they're going to want to come out of the funnel at some point and pick up the phone and call a dealer or just come to the store. So I think, Tim, if you go to the next slide, we can kind of segue. Oh, yeah. That's one more slide ahead. Go ahead. You can take this one.
Oh yeah. So, well, finally, wrapping it up, if you're gonna go the extra mile, if you're online, if you tell the customer what you're gonna do, you're gonna promise them, your online process is gonna match, right? You've got to be able to complete it. You're gonna go that last mile. And here's what the leading dealers are doing today. There are franchise dealers that are doing this as well as Carvana, but you've got to be able to, let them know cash for their car in their driveway right there. Now, I get it. Not everybody, when you go to buy their car, they probably owe you money, or they've got the title and there's there are tools out there that can help you guys accommodate these situations. DocuSign, I know, has put a lot of effort out there to help dealers, finish off that last mile. Make it known that you're going to give a customer cash for their car, whether they buy a car from you or not, and you're going to make that transaction happen wherever. You've got to let the customers tell them what you're going to do so they trust you, and you cannot break that trust, because that's the only thing we have.
We're going to come back to that with one of our examples with a We Buy program, but that's good sound advice.
Yeah.
I think we're moving on to step 2 now.
So step 2. Right?
I'll take this from here. So Tim kind of alluded to this a little bit. It's all about the process, right? So what I encourage you as you're listening to this and watching this, what is your process with a customer to buy their car? Now, whether it's a trade because they're going to buy one of your cars, or whether it's a We Buy program, or it's through through the service lane. What is your process? Because if we don't have strong process, then people are going to take the path of least resistance. And we see that all the time, Tim, when we're in stores, right? We're cutting corners and then we get away from our process. So it's got to be quick and easy. Do you have a mutual evaluation with that customer? Do you walk the car with the customer and point out dings and dents and scratches? We're going to talk about that. And then one of the things that Tim and I had to do back in the day at CarMax, and Tim, you even did this when you were at Penske, what cars are worth, but get a second set of eyeballs. Get somebody else in the dealership, to back you up. Do you use the power of your employees to figure out what that car is actually worth, so we don't miss it? And to go back to the online process, there's a lot of hype out there right now about digital retailing and omni-channel. Well, we actually, this summer we did a consumer survey, close to 3,000 consumers across the country. And what we found was, they want to start online, but they still want to come. They either want to pick up the phone and call you, or they want to come to the dealership. So Tim, why don't you walk them through our findings when we get there? Yeah.
So I think you all find it amazing that when I went online to find out who was making it easy to buy a car or sell your car to a dealer online and who was not, CarMax, at the filming of this video, you still have to make an appointment. And I thought that was pretty interesting, that they wouldn't even give me a hint of what my 2011 Sequoia was worth. There are lots of places online you can go as a consumer with a couple of clicks of the button. You probably have those tools on your website that, boom, will give a customer an estimated value. So one, consumers want quick and easy. Make sure you're giving it to them. Make sure that process matches up online. We talked about that a little bit in culture. But two, the mutual evaluation. When the consumer does show up to the dealership, right? We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. This is what's important. So I caught Patrick on a day when he was out demoing with a customer at a Lexus dealership in here in North Carolina. But what he's doing here, if you notice, he's got an iPad in his hand. And he's out there with the guest, with the customer, right, looking at her trade with her. And if you're a dealer and you've been doing this a long time, this is no different than what we were doing way before we had iPads and cell phones and the internet, right? We were going out there.
Walk around, right?
This the old walk around, right? This is your favorite part, Patrick, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've had some pretty good success, building technology for dealers to accomplish this. And one of our dealer groups, they were doing this process on a sheet of paper, So hey, let's bring it into 2020 and 2021 and beyond, and give them a process, through technology. So the point behind this is, are you walking out with the customer and looking at things like, the dents, the dings, the scratches, pointing them out, asking the customer how that happened? Are you looking at the tires? Do they need to be replaced? Are you cranking the car up and seeing if the electrical gadgets work, and the windows, the sunroof? Are you looking inside? And when I say this, not you as an appraiser, but your salespeople. Are your salespeople doing this initial step with the customer? Because it does a couple of things, and the results from it are one thing, but it lets the customer know that you're being thorough and that you're taking time. There's two sales going on in a car deal. You're trying to sell your car to a customer, and the customer is trying to sell you their car, and they want the most money for their trade, and you want the most money for your retail piece. So getting them involved, what we found by doing this is customers come in with an unrealistic expectation of the condition of their car, right? Would you agree, Tim? What value do customers think their car is worth whenever they come into a dealership?
And not only that, what we found is this process, by bringing technology into this part of the deal, has really helped with the younger generation of client advisors, salespeople. That, let's face it, we've all got them. They're our customer advocates at the dealership who are a little nervous about talking to the customer about their trade. We'll talk about delivering this number here in a minute and how you can help, why it helps you close more trades. But like this just helps, bring transparency to the entire process. And we've seen tremendous results with, that next generation of client advisors and salespeople dealing with customers and trades.
Yeah, and I think it puts the customer in if they take this 3 to 5 minutes to walk around the car, the salesperson walks around the car with the customer and gets the customer talking about their car. When you do present the numbers, they think their car is worth Kelly Excellent all the time. How many times is it actually in Kelly Excellent condition? Hardly ever, right? So it gets them to have a realistic expectation of what the value of their car is worth, and then we can start the negotiation process from there if needed.
So, and finally, we've gone out there, right? We've done our inspection with the customer. We've looked at the car as a manager. But listen, if you want to close more trades, if you want to acquire more inventory, you've got to get the team involved. I'm telling you, after almost 25 years worth of experience, I know I don't look that old, but it needs to be more than just one guy or gal putting the numbers on a car. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Patrick? Are you seeing that?
Yeah. I mean, our most successful dealers, everybody has a sales tower, right? And there's usually one person that's in charge of going and driving the car and doing the quote unquote appraisal. But the ones that I see that are very successful with it is they call the car to their other managers. hey, this is what I'm thinking it's worth. Um, so we don't get bumped by the new car manager, things like that. So I think utilizing, the collective group of people that you have at your disposal. I mean, the average dealership, if you think about the management team that's in place there, how many decades of experience is that management team in most places? I mean, it's 60, 70 years worth of experience collectively, right? So, you know, we talked about this early on. Cars are so tough to buy at the right money. If we need to step up a little bit, let's have a conversation about it. So we're not just going back and forth. Let's put our. I guess what I'm trying to say is let's put our best foot forward out of the gate. Kind of like some of the bigger box retailers do, like the Carvanas and the CarMaxes.
Yeah, and listen, I'm going to call out the bigger groups that might be on here. I know that there's plenty of them in. The Asburys, the Sonics, the Orange. Call. Listen, you're at a Ford store and you got a BMW 5 Series. Let's call the BMW store. Find out what this thing's worth. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's all about doing the right thing for your customer to sell a car to them, right? Let's get them in the cylinder. Acquiring cars from consumers has got to be the number one goal here. And I think trying to cowboy up by yourself, you're going to get plenty, but let's remember we've got, many are greater than one. I'm just going to leave it at that.
There you go.
All right. So number 3, how do we up our offer game, Patrick?
So I jumped the gun a little bit earlier. This is actually where we transition into the online versus offline process. So I apologize for that. But I think the thing is you got to go beyond the button. We talked about, everybody has some sort of trade evaluation tool on their website, but when they show up to the dealership, is it a consistent message? Follow up. I did this same thing with Carvana. I put my car in just to see what the process was. The follow up was insane, to the point where I had to politely ask them to stop reaching out to me. Right? We paid for all these fancy CRM systems. We paid good money for them. We have the customer's information. The follow up is key in this, and you got to produce the evidence on why this car is worth what it is. So this is where I wanted to segue into the hype around digital retailing and omni-channel. So I believe, Tim, the next slide is actually the consumer survey that we did with 3,000 people across the country. And what's the moral of the story here to bring this home?
Yeah, so it's listen, you've got to. I talked to the dealers that I work with closely about this, and yet you got to have the button today. I really think if you, as a dealer, if you're not providing this service, you're probably behind the ball a little bit. I don't think it's too late, but the good news here is franchise dealers, brick and mortar guys, independents, girls. According to our research, 3,000 consumers in the market to buy a car, 87% of them said the second thing they wanted to do, right after they were, found the car that they wanted to do online, had something to do with going to the dealership and looking at that car, whether it was connecting with somebody at the store or going there physically by themselves or just going down there to test drive. Right? That's good news for us, for our industry, that the brick and mortar is still alive. But what we're getting at is you got to follow up, right? That if you gave them a number online and they sent in a lead or they called you or they chatted with you, right? They're looking for that next step. Did I hit that right on the button? I mean, couldn't agree more. Right?
I think you hit the nail right on the head. And it's, if you think about Carvana, they tout themselves as completely online. Well, what was the stat? It was like 7 to 9 phone calls take place or email transactions with a human before they pull the trigger to buy the car. So consumers are still wanting to talk. They're not at the point yet from the research that we're seeing where they want to buy everything online, that from start to finish. They still want some sort
it's
of.
not an Amazon process, right? Where click, put it in the cart and buy it, I guess is what we're saying.
And that's why it's good for our industry and our dealers, because we're not there yet. There's a very small percentage of people that want to do it that way. And I mean, 3,000 people don't lie, right? 87%, good majority of them.
Yeah.
They still wanted that contact with the dealership.
So when the customer does show up, we talked about that process, that mutual evaluation, the benefits of that. But now it's about evidence, right? And the customer offer form, when put together properly, provides that evidence. I can't tell you how many dealers that I work with that are successful at closing it, buying inventory directly from consumers. They have a solid process that backs up step by step, right? How we got here. And this form does a nice job, right? It talks about the customer's vehicle, right? Backs up their name. It talks about some of the highlights of the vehicle, and then we provide that evidence. So, hey, Mr. Customer, I know that you probably looked at a credible third party before you came in. Good news, we ran a KBB in excellent condition for you. And now, based on that mutual evaluation, right? Based on you and I walking out there together, based on you out there with with my salesperson, we agree that your car wasn't a 10 out of 10. It wasn't in excellent condition. It's really, really nice, right? But we figured it was about 80% of excellent. And we can even back down for reconditioning adjustments. So you can see how if you're a dealer and you're concerned about showing a customer KBB excellent, there are ways out there to provide evidence, a roadmap, a path for any salesperson to tell a really good story and take in a trade for considerably below KBB excellent with evidence. Would you agree, Patrick?
Yeah, and you know, it's always surprising that, you know, I'll see dealers hit a customer. You know, if you come out of the gate at 21,000 and the customer is expecting close to, you know, above 23,000, you know, there's a big disconnect there. So if we're not showing them how we actually arrived at that number, I think that's the biggest thing. And putting it back on the customer and saying, I love that term that you use, based upon our mutual evaluation of your vehicle. This wasn't the used car manager or somebody else, you know, the purchasing manager that they haven't met yet, that, you know, went out and appraised their car. These are your numbers, Mr. Customer. And I know that you looked at Kelly Excellent, and I know this is what you think your car is worth, but we agreed together mutually that it's not in excellent condition. So let me show you how we arrived at that number. And they might not be happy with the number that you provided them, but it's so much better to show them how you got there, to take that extra 5 minutes at the beginning, right? To show them how you arrived at that number, because then you're going to have a happier customer, and they're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy with the number, but they're going to be understanding of how you got there. And
Yeah.
I see that time and time again when we go into our dealerships and I watch this process live, or shoot, we've even done it ourselves, you know, and in presenting the numbers to a customer, they understand. And that's all they want. They want to feel like they're getting a fair price for the car that they're buying and a fair price for the car that they're trading.
If you think
show evidence, it's huge.
You're going to buy inventory effectively directly from the public by just writing down a number on a piece of paper and chucking the keys to the customer.
Sliding across the dealer.
Not going to happen.
Doesn't happen that way. No, sir.
So, all right, number 4, you've got to be disciplined with disposal. What are we going to talk about here, Patrick?
So, you know, having a plan on how to not only, you know, get rid of it, but, you know, you gotta have some sort of a way to be consistent and disciplined with your exit strategy. You know, we see a lot of dealers come in and, you know, they don't know what they're going to do with the car, but you got to have that retail first mentality. So you got to have every single car. You got to think, can I sell this retail, and put the right money on it to where, you know, you own it right, so you can sell it retail. Now, a lot of dealers that we talk to, Tim, they don't want to deal with cars under the $3,000 mark or the $3,500 mark, but there's a large need for those vehicles out there, right?
Yeah.
And we have some great dealers that do this where they do it very successfully.
Yeah, the first thing that when I challenge a dealer to buy directly from the public, the first thing I think that comes to mind is the fear of they're going to have to cut a check for a $500 car. They don't, and it becomes, that's a headache. It's an inconvenience. And one, I think that you can't look at it that way. You're in the customer generation business. That's how you should look at it, right? That $500, you're gonna you just gained a customer. But two, with this rule, with this point that I'm trying to make here is that if you have are disciplined with your disposal process, you should be able to put a number on any car that crosses the curb, whether it be that $200 or $300 no runner or that $100,000 plus Bentley or McLaren. All right, so let's kind of dive into that a little bit more. I mentioned my good buddies up at Minnesota, the Luther guys, and this is where they are really accelerating the ability to buy cars directly from consumers. If you had the ability to retail almost any car that came to your curb that they wanted from a customer they wanted to sell to you, wouldn't that be a plus? Because I talk to a lot of traditional dealers, and if they have no outlet for that, $39.99 car, it frustrates the heck out of the finance manager. It ties up the business office. There's chasing down titles and no running cars, and I get it. But if you could put a business model together, so that's what they did. And it's called Luther Bargain Lot Metro Cars and Credit. You can look it up online today, and cars start online at $39.99. They got 150 units to choose from. It's essentially a wholesale to public lot. They've modified their inspection process. So let's just talk about that, Patrick. How many dealers, when they talk about trying to retail everything, do they say, with typical recon prices, there's no way I can do it, right? You hear that all the time?
Yeah, all the time, yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. If you've bought a car for $1,500 and it at minimum it costs you $699 to open up a ticket, well, you've got to modify the process, guys. Okay. And then they're disciplined with this. They don't hold on to these cars for more than 30 days. At day 30, it goes to the shoot, goes to the auction, and they're gone with it. I think I've shown you a little bit about what these guys are doing up there, haven't I, Patrick?
A little bit. Do they work with the local independents to try to, so it sounds like they're basically taking first crack at this, and then if they can't sell it within 30 days, are they disposing of it with like local buy here, pay here places? Or
no, so good point. They actually have a dedicated lane at their local auto auction, and they run a 85, 90% sale rate. So
wow.
They really feel like the cars that they've reconditioned at the minimum, they've modified inspection recon price, they're still in the cars pretty good. And now they've gotten to the point where the dealers who buy cars from them know that they've spent a little bit of money to make this car a little bit better. So it's a return on the other end at the sale.
Interesting.
So go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's interesting. We did this for a very large public group years ago where, it was the same concept, retail first. And I think you got to have that mindset of, so like you said, especially if you're going to try to attract, Joe Public to your dealership to sell you their car, you got to be willing to write those $500, $750, $1,000 checks.
Yeah, listen, they have stores all across, the Twin Cities and the Upper Midwest. So if they buy something directly from the customer that fits the bill, they send it to that store, right? A nice, late model F-150 or a Hyundai or a Toyota or a Honda, they'll send it right to the dealer. But the stuff that doesn't meet the bill, goes here. Now, what does this allow them to do? This has allowed them to put together a We Buy program that I got to tell you, folks, it's probably the second or third best one out there. And I really am impressed with what Carvana's done on the grand scale, when they're putting numbers on cars coast to coast. and picking them up, right? If you look at their guidance from the stock holders, meaning that they bought more cars than they sold. Well, I know that the guys at Luther are shooting for that too.
Yeah.
Their motto is, you get an offer, they pick it up, the customer gets paid. They are literally going to customers' houses, right? Inspecting cars that are in the guy's garage that haven't seen the light of day in a couple of years. They'll pick the car up, they'll pay the guy right there on the spot. It's amazing. Let me tell you, I've said it once, I'll say it 100 times. The best cars do not make it to the auction. And this is a great way to get them.
Agreed.
So check it out. It's lutherbuyscars.com. You can kind of see what they do. If you got more questions on the side, I'd be happy to talk to you guys about getting something started like that at your own dealership. So getting close to the end here, Patrick, let's talk about,
bring it home.
Yeah, let's talk about one of the most popular ways to source inventory, the service lane. But let's get a little bit specific. What am I talking about here?
Yeah, we said this early on in the agenda slide. A lot of people already do this, and there's a lot of great mining tools, equity mining tools that that are out there to help you with that. But my question, Tim, is, let's say you're a Toyota dealer, and you got a ton of Camrys and Corollas coming through. You might be stocked well with those or overstocked with those. So how do we know what cars we actually need out of our service drive and put greater attention to those? What are some of the best practices that you're seeing?
Yeah, I go to I got a big Honda dealer I work with, and they do a phenomenal job buying cars out of the service lane. But when I walk their used car lot, all I see are current 1 to 2 year old Civics and Accords. And they never have any of the meaty stuff, right? Like the really nice Pilots or the Odysseys. And why is that? It's because those are the cars that keep coming through the service. They sell a ton of them new, and they when they go in and they hit their mining tool in the morning, that's where they make all of their offers. So I'm going to challenge you guys with, okay, because there's plenty of you out there who do this, is don't shop without a list. Okay, if I go to the grocery store without a list of things I need to buy, what's going to happen? I'm going to end up buying stuff that I don't need, right? And this information, like, what are your top sellers over the last 90 days? What are your most profitable sellers? What are your target inventories based on your run rate for the last 45 or 90 days? I mean, this is the information that you need to know, so that when you go into the service lane, right? Let's start looking for the
understocked in, right? You can do, what are you understocked in? What do you need? So you don't end up with all those Camrys and Corollas, on the front line. What do you need?
Yeah. So I took this approach when I was a used car manager with Penske Automotive Group, worked at Wolf Chase Toyota, and I was having the hardest time. I had just come over from CarMax, and I was having the hardest time, creating a balanced mix of inventory, going to the sale. And I said to I had a guy come from a data mining company and said, hey, you need this tool to help you get cars out of service. I thought it was pretty cool, but I ended up, just like I said, with all the same kind of cars. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be smart to just target customers with the vehicles that I need to come into service on a specific day? So this way I knew if I showed up, I spent the day at the store with my head in the service lane, I'd be looking at only the cars that I need. So I called it Wacky Wednesday. It was the third Wednesday of the month, right? And in this particular example, I needed Tundras. So I cleared my calendar for that day. I had set up direct mail marketing to 2 to 5 year old Tundra customers. Either they had bought a car from us before, new or used, or had it serviced with us, and we offered windshield wipers for $7. Right? It was on at a specific Wednesday. They had to come in with the mailer, right? And I had all my sales guys ready. I had all the service guys ready. And I said, listen, I know wipers cost $30. I will subsidize the other $23 for everyone that you don't sell anything to. But, service guys, they can upsell the customer. And here's what happened. I spent the day in service looking at the vehicles that I needed, not spending the day weeding through the Camrys and the Corollas that I had plenty of. I was looking at awesome 4-wheel drive crew cab Tundras with really cool, great low miles and great color combinations. And I actually had the service history and all that good stuff that comes with mining out of service. But that's my free one to you. I call it Wacky Wednesday. Target the customers and the vehicles that you need, right, with marketing, and drive them to your dealership. And that's a great way to acquire the inventory that you'll never, ever will see at the auction. Would you agree, Patrick?
Yeah. What was your success rate with that? Like, what was
we
your closing
closed
rate?
well over 40%. We were always selling, 7 to 10 cars a week just on that promotion alone. And, the salespeople really liked it too, because we kind of got excited about it. They knew that they would be selling Tundras, that particular week. Tundras have good gross. So, it's better than.
That's a great idea. And to think about it, $7 for windshields or windshield wipers, it's brilliant,
Yeah.
Then you're eating the 23. So awesome. Great idea.
Yeah, thanks. So, let's buying from customers, right? It's kind of it could be a little bit of a roller coaster, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everybody will agree, the gross is in the purchase. Again, these cars that you're buying from consumers or are in unique spots are the cars that'll never make it to the auction, right? I think it's just going to be key. And I think about this more and more. I really think there's a business idea here somewhere, Patrick. Maybe we could talk offline about that. But, it's more important than ever that you put a plan together to acquire inventory directly from customers in a business savvy way that is consistent, that provides evidence, all the things that we kind of talked about. Anything else that I dropped?
Yeah. And even if they, they just sell you their car, and they don't buy a car from you that day, you're going to be in the back of their head when they are ready to purchase another vehicle. It's the whole CarMax model. We were going back to this 3 times now, but we were doing that. We didn't care if they were going to buy a car from us or not. We just wanted their car. And then you put them into a funnel, and, more likely than not, they would come back. I mean, do you remember the days of they would come from a franchise dealer with the salesperson, bring the car to CarMax, we'd appraise it, they'd sell it to us, and they'd get back in the car with the salesperson and go back to the Ford store and buy a brand new car?
There are people probably on this call right now, if you are who send customers to CarMax. What are you doing? I don't know. I don't know. How are we doing on time? What do you think, Patrick?
Probably go through the next few slides fairly rapidly. And
we got a couple of bonus ideas here. We have time for bonus ideas.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Okay.
And remember, these will be in the handouts, and you can always contact Tim and I. Outside my what am I at Pat McMullen on Twitter, and Tim, you're at T Scoutless.
T Scoutless. Yeah. This one's one. Couple of we'll talk about. Look at reverse market lookup. Let's just go run right through them. This is one of your favorites right here, Patrick, isn't it? You and I have talked about this a bunch with dealers. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. So inside of whatever inventory management tool you might be using, you have market listings, right? So if you're in need of Jeep Wranglers, like this example, you can see competing dealers in your market, how far away they are from you, and how long they've had the car on their lot for. If that top dealer who's had the car for 145 days, he's probably going to be thinking about it. He should have probably done this a long time ago, but he's probably going to be thinking about exiting at the auction. So what comes with that? You got to pay transport fees. You got to pay sell fees. So pick up the phone and call some people that are maybe not next door, but in your immediate market, 100, 150 miles, and see if you can source inventory that way.
Let's see what else we got here. Oh,
Loaner programs.
Loaner program. This was my favorite. If you're a franchise dealer and you are not leveraging the OEM provided loaner program, I would, as soon as you get back to this store, well, you're probably at the store now. I would look into this. Some of the some of the most profitable used cars that came out were from the track program or your courtesy cars. They could be, really nice vehicles. And if you work it right, that's inventory that you can constantly be selling out of. A great way to have a constant flow of used cars or pre-owned vehicles that your service department's going to love, your finance department's going to love, your salespeople already know how to sell them. You don't have to go to the auction and fight anybody on them. Loaner program, great way to take care of customers and make money. What else we got on here? Oh, seeking private sellers. Have you ever done this one, Patrick?
Personally, no, but I'm sure you have.
So listen, if you, I ran I put a video together back during in the summertime where I knew dealers were really struggling with certain vehicles. Tacomas were like impossible to find this summer. And look, right here in Wilmington, North Carolina, I found 7 of them for sale online on Car Gurus. You were looking for, Silverado trucks on Craigslist. There were 18 of them in the Charlotte area. You could look up on Auto Trader. Listen, do a quick reverse lookup and sort just by private sellers and start making phone calls. Great way.
I know a couple dealers that have people assigned just to this, and they'll give them a buy list and they'll say, "Go find these cars for me." And a private seller is not going to charge you a transport fee. They're not going to sell you a buy fee. A lot of the auctions now, they're charging a percentage of the purchase price. So if you're buying a $40,000-$50,000 car from the auction, obviously your buy fee is going to be a lot higher than that $10,000 car. Yeah. Private sellers don't have the buy fees, do they, Tim?
No. If you put a good process together, like we've been talking about, this should be super easy for you to cut that customer a check and pick up the vehicle.
100%.
Okay. I think that wraps it up. Wow. Thank you so much for coming out. What else? How do we wrap this up?
Go ahead and go to the next slide, Tim.
Sure.
So, thank you so much for picking our session to watch. Guess we'll turn it over to the live Q&A now. So if you have any questions, please let us know.
Yeah.